Raven Creek slept the way it always did, quietly, comfortably, and without imagination. The kind of town where front doors were left unlocked, where the same faces filled the same booths at the same diner every morning, and where nothing ever really changed. The locals liked to say that time forgot Raven Creek. In truth, Raven Creek worked very hard to make sure the past stayed exactly where it was. At 2:17 a.m., the siren shattered the illusion. A scream of metal and electricity tore through the foggy night as flames rose over the eastern tree line. From Main Street, from the motel, from the police station and the quiet rows of dark houses, people emerged in pajamas and work boots, staring at the distant glow. The Miller farmhouse was on fire. It had been abandoned for decades, or at least that's what everyone said. Fire Chief Harold Boone reached the scene first, skidding his truck to a halt at the end of the dirt road. The flames were already climbing the walls, licking through broken windows, chewing through the rotten roof. The building burned fast, like it had been waiting. Boone felt his stomach tighten. The Miller place wasn't wired. It had no power. No one had lived there in over 20 years. Fires like that didn't just start. As firefighters pulled their hoses into position, Boone walked the perimeter. The heat was brutal. Wood cracked, glass burst, sparks lifted into the trees like angry insects. Then Boone saw something that made him stop breathing. At the back of the farmhouse, half hidden by collapsed boards and firelight, was a door that had never been there before. "Who opened that?" Boone shouted. No one answered. The door didn't lead into the house, it led down. By the time the fire was under control, dawn was bleeding across the sky. Smoke drifted over the property, carrying a bitter metallic smell. The roof had collapsed. The main floor was destroyed. But the strange door at the back still stood. Boone forced it open. Stone steps descended into darkness. The basement, if it could be called that, was carved into the earth. No windows, no light, just cold dirt walls and a floor of packed soil. And in the center of the room, 3 skeletons. They were arranged in a straight line. Their wrists were bound with rusted wire. Their jaws hung open, frozen in silent screams. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Boone whispered, "Oh, God." Raven Creek's perfect silence was dead. Detective Ethan Cole arrived at 9:43 a.m. He stepped out of his car and immediately felt it, that sensation detectives developed when a place was lying to them. The town looked peaceful, almost too peaceful, but every person he passed avoided his eyes. The farmhouse ruins were still smoldering. Ash coated the ground like gray snow. Crime scene tape fluttered in the breeze. Cole ducked under the tape and approached Boone. Detective Cole, State Criminal Division. Boone's face was pale, his eyes red from smoke and something else. "You picked a hell of a morning. Walk me through it." Cole hesitated, then nodded. "We found a cellar. Didn't know it existed. No blueprints show it. And the bodies? 3. Been there a long time." Cole descended the stone steps. The air changed instantly, colder, heavier. His flashlight swept across the dirt walls, the wire, the bones. He knelt. The skeletons were old, but not ancient. Teenagers, judging by size. The wire had eaten into the bones of their wrists. This was no accident. This was no burial. This was a message. Among the ashes upstairs, Cole found something else, a melted silver locket. Inside, barely readable, were the words L. Mercer, 2005. He stared at the date. 20 years ago. The town's records were thin, too thin. 3 local teenagers, Lily Mercer, Josh Caldwell, and Eric Boone, had vanished after the annual summer festival in 2005. The case file was barely 5 pages long. No suspects, no evidence, case closed, runaways. Cole looked up from the file and across the street. The current mayor, Thomas Hale, was the festival's head organizer that year. The sheriff, Robert Kane, had been lead investigator. The school principal, the church pastor, the fire chief himself. Every one of them still lived in Raven Creek. And now someone had burned the past out of the ground. That night, Cole returned to his motel. The town felt different after dark, quieter, watching. He unlocked his door. Inside, his case files were gone. Every page, every photo, every note. Only one thing remained on the bed. A piece of paper. On it, written in shaky ink, "Stop digging." Cole slowly sat down. Raven Creek wasn't just hiding something. Raven Creek was afraid, and whatever burned in that farmhouse was only the beginning. Detective Ethan Cole didn't sleep that night. The note on his motel bed, "Stop digging," kept spinning in his mind. Whoever had left it had known exactly where he stayed. That meant the town wasn't just hiding something, it was watching. Every movement he made, every question he asked, every shadow he chased. He knew the fire at the Miller farmhouse hadn't been random. Fires didn't start in empty houses on stormy nights for no reason. Someone wanted him to see what had been buried, or worse, to be scared away before he discovered the truth. By morning, Cole had made a plan. He would walk the town, quietly, methodically. Every name on the old missing persons file would be accounted for. The mayor, the sheriff, the school principal, the pastor, and anyone else who might remember the festival of 2005. He started with the mayor, Thomas Hale. Hale's office was immaculate, but his hand shook slightly when he poured coffee for Cole. We lost 3 kids that year," Hale said softly, avoiding eye contact. "It was tragic, but the police investigated. Case closed." "Yes," Cole replied, watching Hale's eyes flicker nervously toward the door. "Case closed, but you might understand why 3 skeletons found in a basement after 20 years would raise questions." Hale's hands trembled. I don't know anything about that." Cole nodded. He knew when someone was lying. Hale was lying. Next, he visited Sheriff Robert Kane. Kane had been young in 2005, barely 28, and had been in charge of investigating the teen's disappearance. "You don't want to reopen old wounds," Kane said, his voice flat, defensive. "People move on. Families move on. The kids are gone. That's it." "They're not gone," Cole said sharply. "Not really. Someone's been hiding the truth for 20 years, and now someone is trying to burn it all down." Kane swallowed hard. You don't understand this town. Things happen here. People protect each other. It's how it's always been." Cole left the sheriff's office with a chill. Protect each other. That was the clue he had been waiting for. Someone in Raven Creek was hiding the deaths, and everyone else had agreed to look the other way. Cole spent the afternoon combing through old archives in the town library. Dusty boxes, yellowed newspaper clippings, and faded photographs littered the room. He discovered tiny overlooked mentions of the missing teens, an article about the summer festival, a grainy photo of the 3 teens standing together, smiling. One photo caught his eye, a group of men huddled in a circle near the fairground. One of them held something small in his hand. The angle was wrong, you couldn't tell what it was, but Cole noticed a pattern. The same men appeared in almost every photograph of town events that summer. Names he knew, names connected to the town council, names connected to the fire chief. It wasn't an accident. Then came the note. Cole returned to his motel room that evening to find another envelope slipped under the door. No handwriting, no return address, just a folded photograph, a fresh photo of a woman standing by the riverbank, the same woman he had seen in the archives, Martha Hale. She was alive, and she was afraid. The photograph had a message scrawled on the back. "They know I'm talking. Meet me. Midnight, row 9, Raven Creek Cemetery." Cole hesitated, then grabbed his coat. Midnight at the cemetery meant darkness, silence, and shadows, perfect for ambush. But he didn't care. Someone was risking their life to reach him, and he owed him his full attention. The cemetery was silent when he arrived. Mist rolled across the ground like shallow water. Gravestones jutted up through the fog, old and cracked, names long forgotten. A single figure moved near row 9. "Martha?" Cole called softly. The woman turned. She was small, frail-looking, but her eyes burned with courage he hadn't expected. "They can't know I'm here," she whispered. "If they find me, I'll disappear like the others." "Others?" Cole asked. She shook her head. "You don't understand. The teens, the festival. It wasn't an accident. It was planned. They didn't vanish. They were locked away. The town, the leaders, they all agreed. And if anyone tries to talk, they burn the evidence, just like the Miller farmhouse." Cole felt the chill again, sharper this time. His mind raced. He had suspected corruption. He had suspected lies. But this? A town-wide conspiracy to cover up murders? 20 years? Before he could ask more, Martha's voice broke the night. "They know you're asking questions." Cole looked toward the cemetery gate and saw a truck idling in the mist, headlights off. Figures moved inside. "Go," Martha hissed. "Go before they see us." Cole and Martha fled through the fog, ducking between gravestones. Behind them, a low, deliberate hum echoed. Tires on gravel, slow and watching. When they reached the edge of the cemetery, the figures were gone, but the message was clear. Someone had been tracking them the whole time. The next day, Cole met with Boone at the fire department. "Something's wrong," Boone admitted. "I've lived here my whole life, seen plenty of fires, but nothing like that farmhouse. It wasn't just fire, it was calculated. Someone wanted us to see what was hidden." Cole nodded. "And the skeletons?" Boone swallowed hard. "Those kids weren't supposed to be found. Not now, not ever." Cole knew it was true. Someone in Raven Creek had been keeping the past buried, and someone had broken the silence. As he walked back to his motel that evening, Cole realized the stakes were higher than ever. The town wasn't just hiding old crimes, it was actively protecting its secrets, and if anyone got in the way, they paid the price, burned alive or worse. That night, lightning split the sky over Raven Creek, thunder shook the motel windows, and somewhere far from the town lights, another building began to smolder. Cole knew one thing: this was only the beginning. The past wasn't done with Raven Creek, and he wasn't done with it either. The night Raven Creek had long feared had finally begun. Detective Ethan Cole sat in his motel room, the room thick with tension. The last 24 hours had been a blur: fires, threats, secret meetings, and the ghost of a past no one dared speak about. But now a new figure entered the frame, one Cole hadn't yet understood. Daniel Mercer, the younger brother of one of the missing teens. Daniel had disappeared years ago after the festival. Rumors whispered that he had left town, angered and broken by his family's inability to find his sister, Lily Mercer, and her friends. He had returned quietly, deliberately, and he had started the fires. Cole knew this because Daniel had left a trail, not of ash and flame, but of messages, clues pointing to the truth. Each fire, each note, each photograph found on the streets of Raven Creek was part of his plan to expose the town. And now Daniel was missing. Cole started his search at the old Miller property, now smoldering and still cordoned off with police tape. Something didn't make sense. The fire had been deliberate, yet Daniel's fingerprints were nowhere. His movements were ghost-like. Cole crouched by the basement steps, still blackened and smoldering, and noticed something strange in the ashes. A diary, partially burned, but still readable. Flipping through it, Cole realized it belonged to Daniel. His handwriting was frantic, obsessive. They think the secret is safe. They bury the truth and expect the world to forget. But I see them, I know them, and I will make the town remember. I will make them pay. Daniel had chronicled everything: the night the teens were taken, the people responsible, the deals made to cover it up. The town had agreed collectively, silence above all else, and anyone who dared speak would disappear, just like Lily, Josh, and Eric. Cole's hands shook as he read. If Ethan Cole is smart enough to find this, he must be careful. The people in this town are willing to burn everything, even the innocent, to keep it buried. They are watching, always watching. The detective didn't need the warning. He already felt the eyes of Raven Creek on him. Walking the streets, he noticed the subtle signs: doors closing as he passed, curtains twitching, whispers stopping mid-sentence. Every citizen he had spoken to in Part 2 was now a suspect. Everyone could be hiding evidence. Cole returned to the cemetery at midnight, following another note from Daniel. Row 16, alone, come prepared. The fog had thickened, rolling across gravestones like water over rocks. A single figure emerged from the mist: Daniel Mercer. But the man before him wasn't a boy anymore. His jaw was set, his eyes cold and sharp. There was a haunted fire in them. He'd been carrying rage for 20 years. "You're late," Daniel said, voice low, trembling, yet full of authority. "I thought they'd have stopped you by now." "They tried," Cole said. "They burned houses, threatened witnesses, and now your name is attached to all of this." Daniel shook his head. It's never been about me. It's about them, the people who watched my sister and her friends die, who let them rot in a cellar while the town pretended nothing happened. I came back to finish what they started, to make them face the truth." Cole felt a shiver run down his spine. The plan was simple, terrifying. Daniel had been exposing the town slowly, strategically. Fires were only the first stage, warnings. The diary, photographs, and notes were pieces of a puzzle designed to lure the guilty into the open. "And if they try to stop you?" Cole asked. Daniel smiled, bitter. "They will, and some will die. I didn't come back to negotiate. I came back to burn their lies down." Cole and Daniel began retracing old paths from the festival of 2005. The fairgrounds, the abandoned mill, the old storage sheds, all places the teens had been seen last. Each site was now booby-trapped with memories, old reminders of the crime the town had committed. Carved initials in trees, rusted bracelets, even a partially decayed tent with remnants of fabric from that night. It was a macabre scavenger hunt, and the truth was only half buried. Along the way, Daniel revealed details that made Cole's blood run cold. The teens had witnessed a brutal assault at the festival by some of the town's most respected leaders. They had threatened to tell the police, and the town's leaders had locked them in the farmhouse cellar, leaving them to die, all under the guise of accidental disappearance. Cole realized the enormity of the betrayal. Everyone in the town had been complicit, not just in the crime, but in decades of lies. Why now? Why start this after 20 years? Daniel's eyes burned. Because they think the past is buried, because they think no one remembers, but I do, and I have to make them remember, even if it costs me my life. As they investigated further, danger came faster than expected. Cole noticed someone trailing them, subtle, almost invisible. A shadow darted between gravestones, hiding behind trees, watching. Then came the first real attack. A car sped down the cemetery road, headlights blinding. Cole and Daniel barely ducked behind a monument as the engine roared past. Tires screeched, a gunshot rang out. The bullet struck the tombstone where Daniel had been standing a second earlier. "They're not just hiding the truth, they're killing to keep it," Daniel said, breathless. Cole's mind raced. The town was no longer just secretive, it was violent, desperate, willing to eliminate anyone who threatened its image. They knew Daniel's goal, they knew he was exposing the past, and now they were coming for him. By dawn, the pair had discovered a hidden network of tunnels beneath the old Miller property. These tunnels connected to other buildings in town, the school, the church, even the mayor's office. It was a literal underground system for moving evidence, supplies, and Cole suspected, people. Cole's heart pounded as he realized what he was seeing. The town had been hiding physical proof of the crimes for decades, and Daniel had found it. The diary had warned him. The fires were only the beginning. Someone in Raven Creek was about to strike back, and the town had 20 years of practice in hiding bodies, silencing witnesses, and protecting themselves at all costs. Cole and Daniel emerged from the tunnels, exhausted, covered in dirt and soot. They could hear engines starting in the distance, the sound of trucks moving closer. "They're coming for us," Cole said. Daniel clenched his fists. Let them come. Let them see what happens when lies burn. Cole felt the tension settle in his chest. This was no longer an investigation. It was a war. The town had survived 20 years by hiding the past, but the past had claws, and now It had come alive. Raven Creek woke to a morning that smelled of smoke and fear. Detective Ethan Cole stood at the edge of the ruined Miller farmhouse, the first light of dawn cutting through the haze. The destruction wasn't accidental. It was deliberate, the result of Daniel Mercer's final move. But the fires were more than destruction. They were warnings. The town had been living on borrowed time, and the debts of the past had finally caught up. Cole's phone vibrated, a single text. "They know you're close. Watch yourself." It wasn't signed. It didn't need to be. Everyone in town who had been complicit knew Cole had the evidence. They would try to stop him. Cole and Daniel met at the cemetery one last time. Daniel's eyes, usually fierce with fury, were tired but determined. "They won't stop," Cole said, "not until someone pays." "I don't want them dead," Daniel whispered, "but if they try to hide the truth, they will be." Cole nodded. He had seen the first signs already. The sheriff's office had been broken into, the mayor's mailbox burned, the pastor's windows shattered. Raven Creek was panicking, and panic brought mistakes. By noon, Cole had gathered what little evidence he could salvage from the tunnels and the farmhouse. Old diaries, photographs, documents, all pointing to the horrific truth. Lily Mercer, Josh Caldwell, and Eric Boone had been locked in the farmhouse cellar after witnessing a violent crime at the summer festival in 2005. The town council, the sheriff, the fire chief, the mayor, and the pastor had all agreed to cover it up. Anyone who tried to speak, even 20 years later, risked death. Cole called a press conference. The first hints of smoke from the farmhouse ruins drifted into the town square. Residents, sensing something had gone terribly wrong, began gathering. The mayor, Thomas Hale, appeared first. His usual composure had crumbled. Sweat ran down his forehead, and his hands shook uncontrollably. "Detective Cole," he said, voice trembling, "you don't understand. We did what we had to do. The town, we had to protect Raven Creek." Cole didn't flinch. Protect Raven Creek by letting 3 children die, by covering up their murders for 20 years? You call that protection? Hale tried to speak, but the crowd's whispers grew louder. From the courthouse steps, the sheriff appeared, followed by the pastor and the school principal. Each face was pale, fear written in the lines of their skin. The town's skeletons were finally out in the open, literally and figuratively. Suddenly, Daniel stepped forward. His voice cut through the crowd like a knife. "You all knew, you all agreed, and now it's time to face the consequences. 20 years of lies, 20 years of pretending. The people you let die deserve justice, and you," he pointed at the town leaders, "will not escape it." Hale swayed on his feet. "You're insane." "No," Daniel said, "I'm awake. You're the ones who were asleep while you let evil fester. I came to remind you." The press had arrived by now.
Cameras flashed, microphones were raised, the story was unfolding live. Every secret, every lie, every sin of Raven Creek was being broadcast across the nation. The confrontation escalated quickly. The sheriff tried to flee, pushing through the crowd. Daniel moved with lightning speed, intercepting him. In the chaos, the mayor attempted to sneak away, but Cole caught him by the arm. "You're under arrest," Cole said, firm and unwavering, "for conspiracy to commit murder, obstruction of justice, and covering up the deaths of 3 children. The pastor tried to intervene, but he was restrained by 2 of Cole's officers. The principal had no escape. The cameras caught every fearful glance, every panicked step. The town's leaders were trapped, cornered by both law enforcement and the glare of public attention. Their power, cultivated over decades, crumbled like the ashes of the farmhouse. But the reckoning wasn't over. As the crowd watched, a body was pulled from the river on the outskirts of town. Daniel's brother's remains, the last piece of the puzzle, had been discovered. Daniel's face twisted with grief and rage. The town had attempted to silence him as well. Cole approached Daniel. "It's over now. The truth is out." Daniel shook his head slowly, staring at the water. "It's never over. Not really. People forget, people forgive, but some things burn too deep to forget. They can try to hide, but fire has a way of finding the lies." And he was right. Raven Creek had burned the lies for 20 years, but the truth had caught fire anyway. By nightfall, arrests had been made. Hale, Kane, the pastor, and the principal were taken into custody. The courthouse steps were crowded with journalists, shining lights into the dark streets. The once quiet town was alive with chaos. Cole stood on the edge of the farmhouse ruins, smoke curling around his legs. The cellar that had held the bodies of 3 innocent teens now lay exposed to the morning sun. The ground was scorched, evidence preserved, and the past laid bare. He thought of the teens, Lily, Josh, Eric. Their names, once whispered in silence, would now be remembered. The town that had hid its secrets for 20 years would never be the same. Daniel Mercer stood beside him, silent. A weight had lifted from his shoulders, but the pain in his eyes remained. Justice had been served, but at what cost? Cole finally spoke. "You did what you had to do. You exposed them." Daniel nodded. "I hope so, but the town, it will never forget. That's the only way they'll truly learn." As the night settled over Raven Creek, flames from small controlled fires flickered across the farmhouse ruins. They weren't acts of violence anymore. They were symbols, symbols of truth, memory, and the reckoning of decades of silence. Cole looked at the town and knew one thing. The town had hidden a terrifying secret for 20 years, but the fire of the truth had finally consumed it, and Raven Creek would never be quiet again.